Welcome to the Scalability Code, the podcast that helps you get out of the shit show and start growing your business. A few times each month, you'll hear stories and commentary from visionary entrepreneurs, EOS implementers, and fractional COOs about how they've taken businesses to level 10. And now, for your host, Matt Haney.
All right, here we are on another episode of the Scalability Code. Today, we have joining us from the great city of Houston, Texas, Mark Henderson Leary. Mark, thanks for joining us today on the Scalability Code. Really appreciate you joining us.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I always enjoy these opportunities, and it's a real privilege.
Yeah, it is fun. I love the opportunity to get to talk to folks that are senior business leaders, have been through the shit show, as I say, have come out on the other side, and I'm guessing fit that bill, but we'll jump into it. So, Mark, we start these conversations the same way every time. First, I'd love to know what you're grateful for and what something that comes to mind that you can pull out that brings gratitude, and then we'll go back to your history of how you got to where you are today.
Well, an unbelievable amount to be grateful for. It's hard to even pick. Being able to have the privilege of being an EOS implementer for the better part of a decade and have so many great experiences and the opportunity to learn so much. I mean, that's certainly how I'm describing it these days. That I'm supposed to be a teacher, facilitator, and coach, and I do that, I suppose. But it's really about all the things I've learned, and every year is more of that. I've been through a lot. I'm an entrepreneur, right? So
well, let's unpack that.
Okay, I was going to say that I'll put a heading on it, and you can dig into
Perfect.
it. People like me find ourselves in situations we have to figure out, and I've been there multiple times and had a good entrepreneurial group to help me through the first times of my business struggles and my family struggles and working through that. And I've had it again. The thing I'm most grateful for in all that is having an unbelievably loving, trusting, well-connected friend group, support group, family to be there with me through those things to help me stay grounded in who I am and what I can, in my value. Because it's been a rough a couple decades in spots.
I hear you. There's a lot of scars, a lot of gray hair that we've all developed from it. So let's go back. One of my favorite things to do is to go back and, normally, Mark, you and I introduce and meet people all day, every day, and probably have our whole career. And everyone's like, oh, what do you do? And it's like, oh, shit, I got to save the 18-second elevator pitch as quick as I can to get out what I do. But I want to do the opposite here. I want to go back to kind of your entrepreneurial journey at its onset. So as I'm framing this up, start thinking about somebody who impressioned upon you what entrepreneurialism looked like as a young man, and go back as far as you want to go, because I think the story is very impactful as to how we got where we are. So wind back and, 40-something, 50-something years into your first experience or dose of entrepreneurship as you see it. Who was that person? And what was that story?
Yeah, so there's a couple ways I could take this. And I didn't have that entrepreneurial clear leader. I didn't see it that way anyway. Although my dad is one of the two influences in that regard. He had entrepreneurial elements. More than anything, he was a searcher, a learner. And I lost him a long, long time ago. And over 20 years ago. And 25-ish years ago in a plane crash. And so a large portion of my life, half my life, I didn't have my father to guide me. And he wasn't even that great a guide because he was learning so much on his own. He didn't have great role models. And so I learned a lot of things about humility and the search for knowledge and the search for better, just implicitly. Like I couldn't have even told you that that's what I'd learned until somewhat recently. And I also learned from him acceptance. And I did not know that I had learned that. And again, until very recently. And so my parents got divorced at age they weren't 6, I was 6. And so early age kind of started grappling with that. And I didn't have as much exposure and time with him as any child would have wanted. And again, not really realizing how that could have been different until much later in life, accepting it as it was at the time. And I didn't know that I was learning what it was to be truly accepted. But I just knew that those few times I had with him were really meaningful. And didn't require a lot of explanation. And so I can't say this enough. So much of my story is around the loss of my father and what I thought that could have been. But only recently did I realize how many gifts he gave me that didn't have words attached to them in terms of acceptance and unconditional love and exploration and learning and seeking. And so those I had to figure out later. That's the number one thing. And I want to go certainly give you the opportunity to go back into that. That really polarizes with the fact that I was a daydreamer in early school, and so I was
guilty. Guilty.
So I've self-diagnosed as ADHD in those days, and I've talked to psychologists since then who's like, I'm not so sure that you're ADHD. There was other things at work here, but suffice it to say, I was being told I was smart by my mom, and being sort of praised for the things I knew, and getting this real mixed message about, oh, but you suck in school, and C's and D's are your grades, and you're kind of messing up here. And I didn't know what to make of that. And I think that cocktail was like, I don't know what your system is. It doesn't make any sense to me. And the only safe place for me is in my system, because I can figure that, like, at least if it doesn't work, I know it was me. And so I think that created that desire to be in some type of independent system. At a very young age, I was like, I'm going to be working for myself. And it wasn't like I had some vision.
What made you realize that? Like there was some moment.
Well, I didn't realize it. I just knew
you
it.
Didn't have a lawn mowing route. You didn't have a summer job that you're like, that's something that was like, man, this is that you look. Maybe at the moment you didn't realize it, but man, that was my first taste of entrepreneurship. Or you related to someone, and I think there's always these parallel stories where I think people go back and realize that they had more entrepreneurial opportunities or acquaintances or brushes with entrepreneurship through someone that transitioned them into, where they are today.
I don't think a lot of entrepreneurial stories are about ambition. They've wanted to figure out a way to crack the nut on power, money, or something. And I wasn't motivated by that, at least not at that level. To me, I was motivated by creating a sense of safety. I just wanted to be emotionally safe. And it wasn't quantity driven. There was some agency and power. Like I had a job from the moment I could get a job. And so I always wanted and needed that to buy the things, to have agency, to orchestrate my life. But I wasn't looking for my first million. I was never motivated by that.
Yeah. I agree. I too wasn't incredibly motivated by money. I grew up, my dad was and hey, Dad, if you're listening, he community banker for 30 years or so, and very well connected in the community. And my mom was an educator for 30 plus years, and grew up in a great town, great upbringing, all the stuff, right? Got to go all the baseball games and all the practices, and it was great. But they weren't entrepreneurs, and I didn't know. I knew at an early age I would be in business. That's what I knew. I didn't know it then, but my dad would be like, hey, in the summer, you got to go do something. You got to get your ass out of the house and go do it. So my brother and I mowed yards, and we carried a snapper lawnmower around in the back of the truck and mowed lawns. And he said, I'll pay for the truck. You pay for the gas and the insurance. And that was it. He's like, you better go get your shit together and go start cutting grass. I mean, that was my first taste of entrepreneurship, but it wasn't until I got out of college that I realized that, like, to your point, the safety of controlling my destiny was a lot more interesting than going to, swipe my badge access at the cubicle and go work 9 to 5 at the desk job. So, it's just always interesting to go back and see how people found entrepreneurship.
Well, I'll tell you my first real entrepreneurial experience, and it tells you everything to know about me.
Let's go.
I was such a bad business guy as a result of this. So it was 1987, sophomore year of high school. Did I get that right? And a buddy of mine walks up and shows me this book. It's Charlie Papazian's Home Brewer's Guide, and how to make beer. And
we're gonna go make beer.
He says it's pretty cool, but I don't think we can do this, whatever. And I don't total quick start, on the Colby. I don't think I read it, but I just was like, absolutely, we could do this. Like I don't know how I came to the conclusion that we could do that, but it was very quick. It was like, of course we can do this.
Naively dumb. I love it.
And so within 24 hours, we're at the local home brew shop. 17-year-olds, 15, 16, 17 years old. I don't know exactly. Nobody with a facial hair amongst us. And we're in the home brew shop and we're like, this is legal, right? It's not right, but it is legal, right?
Yeah,
and
it
we
is
just
legal.
wandered through there, and we were just looking around, waiting for this to get kicked out. And they didn't kick us out. And we just asked these questions, and they were just so helpful and explaining. And I think they were thrilled. Like, you love beer. You want to know how to make beer? Yeah. Let me show you how this works. It's amazing.
At that point, did they have like those barrel kits? You know, it was like this like plastic barrel that you pour all the shit in.
Absolutely.
And
Had all that stuff. And so, within a month, we're brewing beer. And I'm learning about it, and I don't really like beer at this point. I just am fascinated by it. But somewhere in the process, I became fascinated by what it was, what were the ingredients, and I started to get this craving for what the description of these recipes was supposed to be producing. But in the process of learning how the chemistry of it, by the time we were done, it became kind of this fascination. And so the entrepreneurial endeavor was like, this is a business. We can sell this beer. It's in our possession. We don't have to ask anybody to buy it for us. It's right here. We possess the whole machinery, the whole supply chain. So we sold the first 6-pack in '87 for $6. And from then on, I never sold another one because I was just fascinated with making beer.
So did you keep doing that through high school? Like, under the cover of darkness?
In closets, and we were all pretty good about, managing. Although a very close friend did get busted with an overspill, a boil over, with malt and it made a massive smell, set off all the smoke detectors, and that got him busted with the parents. But
that's hilarious. So you went from homebrew master at 16. That's your first taste of entrepreneurship.
Yeah,
slinging the first 6-pack, and you're like, "Nah, I'm going to keep this shit now."
But it really did tell the story of like, my subsequent businesses. I was fascinated by the art, fascinated by the purpose, and was very bad at stewarding the money. And that
was the product any good? Was the beer any good at that time?
At times, some of it was good. We were learn a lot of experimentation. It was. Yeah, it was good. It was not great. It was not good.
It was good enough, and it was accessible.
It was, for sure. I'll tell you the very best batch I ever brewed, though. That was when my daughter was 16. I said to her, when I was your age, I was brewing beer. And she said, Dad, that's what we're doing today.
Oh, no, you did it with her.
And so we went down to the homebrew shop, which has since closed, and we got a kit and we picked it out based on her desire and what she was going to make. And she's not a beer drinker either.
Sure.
And we brewed that beer, and it was easily the best beer I'd made out of all the batches. And so it was
awesome.
It was a beautiful experience.
What a great story. So tell me how that got you. What was your early, been an EOS implementer for the last 9 years, full time. What have you done? What did you do before that? Sort of what was your journey to getting to EOS as an implementer?
So it was, you'll see some of the subtext in the story. So I got into IT backwards via, I wanted to be a chef, wanted to be a brew pub owner, all those sort of things. Very entrepreneurial, visionary entrepreneurial. Mm-hmm. Ended up in the IT world and as an independent IT operator, decided I wanted to scale this thing, was able to scale it. Begin to scale it. Went from just me to more than just me.
What services? Just general tech or IT services?
Yeah, it was managed. It was at the
MSP.
I was doing IT. It was an MSP ultimately. And we were managed that transition. So before what we were doing, it was just hours for dollars, and people were starting to get this idea of what an MSP was. And so we were investing in the technology to become a monthly retainer based, fixed fee monthly service type of thing. That is now what the standard of the industry is. But with it, I was 27, and so I was going into these places, and people were saying, "Man, at your age, man, look what you're doing. You get this business. It's great." And so I felt on top of the world for about a year, maybe 2. And then somewhere around year 3, I was just looking at, we got to grow this thing. We're going to build this. Look, all the stuff we've done in the last 2 years, we went from nothing to, almost $1 million in revenue. This is amazing. And that's when I got stuck. And that's like, well, hit the ceiling a little bit. We were supposed to be $1.5 million, $2 million, but we're 900,000. And it started this repetitive cycle. Then I would try to get the advice, try to hire the right people, try to get involved, try to do the things that I thought was supposed to happen, and it wouldn't work. We would just be back. We would 2 steps forward, 2 steps back, 3 steps forward, 4 steps back, and it was very frustrating. Things were just not what I expected them to be, and it was year after year of falling short of what I said was supposed to happen. And I would have this conflict. People would still say, look, you got a good business. You're doing so much more. And I'm like, but I'm getting older and I'm not feeling like I'm ahead of the curve anymore. Yeah. And the biggest frustration for me is that I wasn't doing what I said. I felt massively out of integrity with myself because I would call the shot. We're going to grow 30%. We're going to get more clients. We're going to add this service.
And you were saying this to your team, right? That was
Yeah,
the goal.
certainly.
Here I am projecting this vision out to the team. And
Well, that's a great question, actually, because as a pre-EOS visionary, who knows what I was telling?
well said. So well
I
said,
thought
right?
I was crystal
Yeah.
clear,
Yeah.
but like what I actually said, God only knows.
My favorite way of relating to that is not every time, but all the time you think you're being clear,
Yeah.
you're not actually being clear. I mean, the reality is that you can say it one day and it changes the next, not because you're trying to change, but that's just because you think you're still saying the sky is blue. But in fact, yesterday you told us it's orange. Just like, wait, what color is it? So to your point, laying out that vision consistently and clearly is a flaw for all of us. Thank God we have a system to help us. So anyway, sorry. So you're going back. You're stuck at 900.
Yeah,
you're telling your team where you're going. Yeah,
and this was going on. This was 7 years, and I was beat up and frustrated and embarrassed. Really, truly embarrassed, and trying to show up around my peers and try to act like they felt good about it. I didn't. And I had a friend, and we'll call him Steve, because his name is Steve. And Steve said. He said, Steve said, Mark, it looks like you're stuck. My business is roughly 10 times the size of yours. I know a couple things. Would you mind if I shared a few? And I was like, hell no, I wouldn't mind if you shared. So he spent a couple days with me, sat down and showed me some of the precursor to EOS tools, some of the Vern Harnish stuff, some of the Jim Collins things, some Pat Lencioni tools. And within a couple days of him facilitating some conversations with me, we had core values. We had some elements of an accountability chart, I think. Certainly we're setting rocks or something equivalent to that. And I'm telling you, it was night and day from me frustrated and the team trying to, console me and try to interpret what I was trying to say to like, oh, this makes sense. We now know what you want and we now know what our role is and we know what to do with that. And long story short, within a year, I'd sold the business and was now part of a much larger organization. And my role, even though I wasn't an owner of that organization, was to help them put the business plan together and run the growth strategy. And within 3 years, I was with them about 3 years, we tripled the services revenue. And I was like, this is amazing.
Here we go.
And I got this feeling and this feedback from people that this was my calling. And I had this gift for facilitation and coaching. And so people would, along the way, say, hey, there's this book called Traction. And I was like, nah, it's got a tire on it.
Any idea what year that was, more or less?
Oh, yeah, I can tell you exactly. 2012 is when I sold. So it was right around, sold in 2012. So 2014, 2015 was.
You're right. That lines up. That was a decade ago.
And so friends were like, you should implement EOS. And I was like, I'm not implementing anything with the tire on the cover. I don't even like that. And so 2 years, I was like, I got a system. Maybe I needed some help. And so I finally bit the bullet. I read the book. I was in the community. I met Gino. And if I have a talent for facilitation and coaching, man, the gift that Gino has for creating that system, the biggest bang for the buck. So glad I didn't try to do that. And that was my thought. I thought my visionary brain was going to try to do that. So thank God I did not.
Meanwhile, you would have, monkeyed that for years. It would have been challenging.
Just figuring it out.
So 10 years ago, you read the book, met Gino, and how did you get started? Like, what was the, obviously you have a knack for it. You've been doing it for 10 years and haven't taken a full-time job in the meantime. So you obviously had the first client. And what was that? Do you remember the first client?
Oh, shoot, yeah. So what happened was I decided it was something I was committed to. All the taking it a step back, I actually did think that one day I would be some type of advisor, coach, and I thought maybe a Vistage chair or something like that. But I sort of saw that as my sunset path. And I thought, I got another CEO running me, another startup or something. And so I started looking around for something like that, and nothing was really passionate. I didn't have a passion for something to do, and I couldn't find an organization that had the passion to run, that had qualifications to run. And so I was like, I got to do something with my time. And I think I'll do this sort of advising, coaching thing, and I'll use the system, and I was going to become a consultant. And that was what that sort of idea was. I want to become this consultant to help people do this stuff. Didn't really know what that meant. And I wanted a way to sort of level it up. And so I chose EOS because at the time, the barrier to entry was really low. You could just sign up for like $500. And I was like, great, this will let me figure it out. And very quickly, I was like, this is me. And I committed, and the whole used 2 credit cards to pay the to pay the fee to get in was, I lived a year of debt of my first year getting started. But to launch it was, and I had the passion. It was the first time in my life I really knew.
You had the W.
Had absolutely had the want, had the commitment, the belief that that if I bet on myself, it was a guaranteed thing that I'd never really felt before. In fact, I remember watching Hard Knocks, the football show. They're talking about these teams, and they were talking, and I was watching in this one particular episode. I was actually the one for the Houston Texans, and all these players were talking about their commitment to being on the team and their life in the draft, and they were just so completely bought in on themselves. And I just was in awe of that commitment to knowing they were going to be successful. Now, obviously, not everybody has that result, but I just had never felt that. I was like, I had never been in a position where I felt like it's all me, 100%. I'll do anything, move anywhere, and pay any price to do something. And when I got on the path to be an implementer, it hit me. And I was like, now I get it. Now I know that I'm locked in, that this is the path for me. And whatever obstacles I hit are just obstacles, and I'm just going to move around them or go under them or whatever. And as opposed to changing paths. And it was an amazing feeling. And so the very first client, I was hitting my network, talking to all the people that I knew. And I called a friend of mine who I knew from the IT services business and told him what I was up to. And he said, Mark, I just have got a book on my desk. Somebody handed it to me and asked me to read, and it's called Traction. And I think there's a reason that this is happening, and I'd like to explore this. And so at the time, their business was struggling financially, and I didn't know how to sell the value. So went in with my rate, and I told them, did the 90-minute meeting to get this thing started, and I told them what my rate was. And they're like, man, this sounds great, but there's just no way we can't do this. It's like, man, all right, I need a client.
Yeah.
And I think you need this. So if you need it, just go figure out what you can pay me.
Yeah.
Whatever that amount is. And if it's even 0, I think I said that. And all right, that's a big deal. And he's a very spiritual guy. He said, well, my partner and I, we're going to go pray about this and we'll let you know. And he came back and said, we thought about it and we'd like to move forward. And we'd like to pay you $1,000 per session. And I was really hoping for 2 because I needed that to pay the bills. And, but I was like, that's exactly what I asked for, and let's do it. And he was a great friend then. He's an even better friend now. And he's since then sold his business. He is doing what his passion is. And it's a tremendous journey. He has subsequently recommended his daughter become my practice manager, and his daughter has been my practice manager for the last 2.5 years, something like that.
That's fantastic.
And so it's an unbelievable journey to have the privilege of people who believed in me, and we were able to help each other out. And I just beyond grateful. You talk about that gratitude. I don't have any kind of words to describe the sequence of events that has happened since then as a result of that.
You are listening to the Scalability Code. I'm your host, Matt Haney, founder of Sinclair Ventures, and we help visionary entrepreneurs like you get out of the shit show and focus on growing your business. We offer fractional COO and leadership coaching services that free up that brain of yours to focus on what's next. Learn more about us at sinclairventures.com. Now back to it. That's awesome. What a cool story. What a cool story. All right, well, let's jump into some of the things you've seen in session. This is always where I think some of the interesting things come up. So, there's commonalities. I was speaking to a referral partner I have who's got a CFO firm on the West Coast, and we were talking this morning during my kind of check-in with them on some of the work I'm doing with their clients, and we were just talking through some details around things, and they were asking me questions around what I see client issues are, and I think one of the things that came up is hiring and onboarding. And I'm going somewhere, but I'm going to land the plane in a second in terms of like what challenges you're helping clients navigate. It's always something like there's commonalities over 10 years of working with clients. I know you can pull out 2 or 3 common themes that you've seen. One of them for me happens to be hiring and onboarding. As a fractional integrator, I spend a lot of time working with leadership teams. Matter of fact, it's about 90% of what I do is working with leadership teams to level up talent and working with visionaries to hire new talent, and hiring new talent and onboarding them in a way different than they did the last person that they onboarded. Because as you know, from an entrepreneur yourself, a lot of clients say, here's your email address, here's your laptop, welcome to the company. You've been onboarded. And the employee goes out into the business and is like, holy shit, what did I just get into? There's no system, there's no process, there's nothing. So I don't know if you can pull out any common themes that you've seen in businesses that struggle, and give us an example of how you navigate those things.
Well, yeah, I can boil it down. So the guiding principle that everything you're saying is 100% true. First things first. And I really drive home the point that you'll never out-process the wrong person. So let's be clear. We have to get crystal clear on the right person in the right seat first. And so much heavy lifting is accountability chart. And we're not getting out of the gate if we don't have clarity in the accountability chart and the iterations that go with that. And so just making sure we've done the precursor work. Because you get the right person in the right seats, and they'll help you write the process. And if you get the wrong person, you get the right process, and they'll skip every single step, every single time. You're like, what happened here? And so onboarding is a little different of a process because it kind of supports these people. The biggest challenge I find is when you don't have a process-oriented culture, you say the word process, and they nod, but they have no idea what you're talking about.
No idea.
Not a clue.
No idea.
And they take the rock and they say, yeah, we're gonna do a rock. What's the rock gonna be? We're gonna document all of our core processes and have them followed by all. It's like, all right, how's this going?
Yes, that's it. Yep, that's what we're gonna do.
They get to the end of the quarter. What happened? Nothing. We don't even know what followed by all means. And that's
we tried.
Yeah. So just to me, it's all about baby steps. And I love to use the Brene Brown term, SFD. You familiar with that term?
I'm familiar with Brene Brown. I don't know that term.
Yeah, it's a good one. Especially for process, you got to have it. It's the shitty first draft.
Yeah, that's funny.
You gotta make sure that you get it. Shitty first draft is 100% better than no draft.
You know what's helped me with the SFD? ChatGPT has gotten that writer's block, blank white page. I'm like, just go in and type something, and instantly you've got that SFD on its way.
Yeah, and so there's two things that make an SFD hard to get out the door. One is blank page, and the second thing is perfection. So both of those go together. So I don't expect to get it right. I don't even want it right. Give me a crappy one, and then learn what's crappy about it and improve it later. And so we got to get the party started with the first version, and we got to drive into simplicity and get a conversation started. So I'm frequently telling people, like, onboarding process, how about half a page or to 1 page onboarding checklist? Like anything. Don't worry about training them. At least make sure you tell them, where what websites they need to log into are. And so you can be realizing, oh man, we're really going to train that. Oh, I don't get the password. Oh, so something basic to get it started. The number one problem with process is biting off too much. And as a result of biting off too much, getting literally nothing done.
That's exactly right. No, I hear you. It's so funny, literally having this conversation with one of my clients, and it was around website. She's an awesome visionary. She's got a great service business, 3 locations, and she's like, website. She's got developer, the whole thing. The content's not ready. Like, can we just publish something? Like, let's get going. We're not going to publish perfection. We're going to publish something that we can edit and change as time goes by. And what will end up happening is instead of just not starting, we'll start with something that's good, not great, and we'll work to great. It's the same thing as that SFD or that, just to get the prompt started.
Yeah, because if you're going from a non-process oriented culture to the worst process in the world, that's such an improvement. It's like you at least know that there's what to do, and it's like it's supposed to take 3 days, and it takes 3 weeks. It's like that's amazing. It's amazing that 3 weeks later they actually have their stuff compared to what it was before.
Yeah, that's exactly right. All right, what any other common themes, synergies you're seeing, in session where visionary leaders are coming against the same kind of head banging, pounding their head against the wall frustrations with running businesses that are either scaling or stuck? I can prompt you, but I wanted to leave it to you.
No, I got something, and it's certainly thematic for me right now. This year, I've had some things that have really caused me to do some deep work on the behaviors in my life things that I've accepted, and the consequences of those things. And I'm paying a huge price right now on a personal level for a million mistakes that I made over about a 9-year period that it was kind of overlaps with my EOS journey, but it's unrelated to that. And so I've come to dive deep into this concept of the greater good and what that is. That's my phrase. It's a phrase that's right out of the EOS LMA checklist. It's like the second or third question on the leadership practices. I act with the greater good in mind. And when I ask my clients about that in session, I say, are we acting with the greater good in mind? My behaviors, my actions, my words, and the greater good is defined by the VTO. Are we doing that? And pretty much everybody says, yeah, everybody here. Yeah, of course we're doing that. And I say, is that right? So on your team, there's nobody who you're suspecting just doesn't really fit the culture. And there's nobody who has been late a lot and it's really bothering you. And there's nobody on the team who has been in the role for a year longer than they need to be, than you have not below the bar. And there's nobody, and there's nothing, and there's no product, and there's no service, there's no client situation that you're doing that you're tolerating that doesn't violate the core values and the core focus. And at that point, the room is not looking up.
They're like, if we don't make eye contact, we can get the hell out of here.
Yeah. And so I'm like, so there's something here. And it is these small behaviors, the courageousness to take a stand on these small behaviors that we've mapped out. And I've done so much deep thought on this. And I did a talk earlier today for a group of women integrators, and actually women integrators who have now become visionaries. And the point of the topic was, what's the role and what is it, how to be a great visionary if you were an integrator before. And it really just crystallized these lessons that I bring to any visionary. And if we have more time, well, I don't know, you can add a link to this. What I prompt, and I've done this in session, I show the video of Steve Jobs, played by Ashton Kutcher, in the movie. I think it's called Jobs. Yeah. And he's going through everybody should watch it, and watch it 5 times, maybe 10 times, because at first it's an appalling video of him losing his mind over something small. And we know that he was a terribly difficult leader to work for.
Oh,
very
absolutely.
toxic behavior. However, his shit worked.
It did.
And so the real essence of watching that video, and obviously it's fictional, but watching the video and try to filter out what was terrible, what should no one be doing, and what should every visionary be doing. And the answer is that came to me when I had a visionary client come to me a couple of years ago, and he said, Mark, I'm struggling. I know as a visionary, I'm supposed to let them figure things out, but they're breaking the business. What am I supposed to, where do I show up? And I'd never been asked that question before. And that's what started the process, thinking, well, where is it? And the answer was at that time, and has become more crystal clear. It's the top half of the VTO. Clearly. Now, you're going to let people make mistakes in the issues and the rocks, and the execution's not going to turn out exactly as you intended. But nothing anywhere in the organization can violate those core values and that core focus. And I heard that at first is very much like you're probably hearing it now. Yeah, that's the territory. But going back to watching that video, he loses his mind over something very simple. That is, guys, we are here to transform the world through our software and our computer. And we're designing a word processor. And somehow we designed a word processor without fonts. That can never happen again. And you're going to fix it now.
Of course.
And that is where the visionary needs to stand. We know as visionaries, and I'm a recovering visionary just like so many people, that a lot of our behavior was counterproductive. We did damage, and we tried to not do that. And so when we get into EOS, we learn to delegate and bring some people in with skills we don't have, and it's amazing. But what we tend to do, and I've seen this a lot more than I care to admit, because it only recently has dawned on me what's happened, we kind of neuter the power of the visionary, and they just kind of get sheepish. And the integrators, the strong ones, are kind of sometimes push us around like, we can't do that. And I think we're missing the boat, because the idea was we were unclear before. Like even in that video, he's like, everything's a priority. It's like, okay, that doesn't work.
Yeah, that and mutual accountability. Those two things don't,
Yeah, so everything's not a priority. We know that doesn't work. And so but we now can get clear on what is a priority. We wrote those core values. We wrote that core focus. We have a 10-year target. We have a clear target market. Our marketing strategy is crystal clear, and we cannot violate that. And if we've gotten into the process of sort of democratizing that vision, and it's feeling a little weak, and we don't know who we'd fire over for not sharing that vision, then that's a problem.
Right.
And as a visionary, we got to say, what would I fire people over?
That's
what
exactly
would I
right.
lose my mind over? And what would be fair to do so? Because we were unclear before, but we're
Right.
clear now.
Now
We
it's
have
down.
a VTO. The answers are there, and you should absolutely go crazy. And the
You know what's
exercise
also really interesting? I'm going to cut you off for a second
Yeah,
because
sure.
you do have the VTO, but also more impactful, you have core values. I mean,
Well, that's on the
just-
VTO. Yeah, that's
Well,
that's
yeah,
the first
sorry,
question
you're
of the
right.
VTO.
Hey, you're right. Fine. You win. But I went specifically into the core
Yeah.
values piece of the VTO.
Yeah,
I'm not
we spent the
bullshitting. It
entire almost the
happened
entire
yesterday.
time in that today.
It happened
in the core values.
yesterday. Client I worked with 2.5 years ago, family-owned jewelry business, third generation, Peoria, Illinois, incredible leader. Son works in the business. Great business leader, vulnerable, all the stuff. We pulled up the VTO in, I worked with him 2.5 years ago. And then he called me this week. He was like, hey, will you jump back in for a sprint and help us get on track? I was like, absolutely. This is awesome. Picked right back up. First thing I did, we're having issues in the first L10, which was Wednesday of this week. I said, hang on, I got a screen share. Boop, pull up the VTO. And I said, here it is. There are these bullets. If we talk about these things with the person we're having an issue with, they're going to self-select themselves out as being the issue. It's the most unassuming, most non-confrontational way to bring up the fact that you and I both know that you're not meeting these core values because I'm not managing you to them and you're not living up to them.
Yes, and there is oftentimes a mental problem in core values and how we use them in the tool. I love the tools, but a lot of times we get trapped in the tool if we don't understand its principal intent. And so what I did in the group today, I said, all right, everybody close your eyes. Imagine all of your employees. If you've got between 5 employees to 155 employees, or 1,000 employees, or whatever. Imagine walking around the halls of this organization, virtually or physically, and seeing every single one of these people as somebody who gets it, understands the vision. You love seeing their it's a privilege to work in an environment with people you love and respect and who love and respect you. Every single employee is that. All right, guys, open your eyes. How far off are you?
Yeah.
When do you deserve to work in that environment? When? And the room was like, well, now. I'm like, yes, now, right now. And that's what the visionaries need to be doing. And so with that in mind, we go back to the core values and the people analyzer. Do the core values you've written down, do they do that for you? Because sometimes we reverse engineer the wrong way. We put a bunch of stuff we think we're supposed to put there. We democratized it. We lowest common denominator. And for God's sake, you don't make an acronym out of your stupid core values because it almost always changes the meaning and waters them down. Now, I've 1 out of 20 who've done this make it work. So if yours nail it, then you don't need to change it. But if you're struggling with a culture, get rid of that acronym and just say what you mean. Today it came up in the conversation. She right away said, our organization, what matters is details. We all have to be detail oriented and see the most minute thing. Like, that's core value. Is it in your core values? She said, absolutely. It's part of A, which is accountable, which is implied. I'm like, nope. Like, nope.
I'm being really clear, though. I'm being really
exactly.
clear.
I was like, you might want to take that back. And so I gave all this. I said exactly what I said to her. I don't know what she'll do with it, but because she could obviously rewrite the story and drive it home, and she can make the A turn into all details matter or whatever. So that's the point there. Make sure this first question serves you emotionally, truthfully, in integrity. You have to love it. It has to be in your heart. The words are just approximations, and make sure you don't go the wrong way and start keeping people around.
I'm going to flip those core. I'm going to flip those core values to you when you're acting out of your. We all get lost, right? We all go down a path. We all wander, but those things are going to come up in a conversation between you and someone else. And sometimes it's not going to be a fun conversation. Yeah. It's going to be, you put these on the wall and you're not living to them. And the best clients, the best leaders I've ever worked with are the ones that say, thank you. You're right. You're right. Yeah. Because we're all guilty of falling short of those. So that's good. I'm going to keep us moving unless you got something else you want to add.
One sentence on that.
Yeah, please.
Just to highlight that. Be very wary of the visionary who doesn't believe that they could fall short of their core values.
Yeah.
That's the ego maniacal approach. It's narcissistic and it's not true. We can value it and we can fall short. Absolutely. That humility and that
vulnerability, candor.
Absolutely. That imperfection.
Absolutely.
That
yeah,
keeps it
no,
real.
I mean, and like I said, the best leaders I've ever worked for are the ones that say, you're right, A, and B, I was wrong, and C, I'm sorry, and D, I'll do better. And I try to say those things out loud as much as I can. You and I were talking before we joined. I did a Bad Boss podcast with Beth this week, and talking about some of the terrible mistakes I've made in firing people and affecting their livelihood in a way that I took for granted and have forever made me realize that every conversation I have, every review, every this is like, be candid, be honest, be respectful, be curious, but be humble through all of them. So anyway, I want to keep jumping. Question I ask everybody, a little bit loaded, but not. The one thing that you think is hardest about managing people, if you can boil it down to one, take a second, think about it. The hardest single thing about managing people in your mind is what?
I mean, for me, it's always been telling the truth. But telling the truth is, is this great? No. I mean, I don't want to hurt people. No one, I say no.
Yeah.
The myth of visionaries is that we're all narcissists, and that we don't care about anything else about other than ourselves. The notorious and known narcissistic sociopaths, they're out there and they're visible, and oftentimes they're very successful. The vast majority of the visionaries that I work with, including myself, are always been terrified of hurting somebody's feelings. And when we're doing everything in the world, we're doing all the worst ideas. The worst things we could possibly do, enabling bad behavior, avoiding conflict, just to avoid hurting someone's feelings. And so, I've obviously combined, because really the hard thing is hurt somebody's feelings, but it manifests as withholding the truth.
That's right.
And so
it's easier to not say the truth, or it's easier to not say everything. That's what I would say. Yeah. I can get a third of the way there and let the rest be implied, or I can get all the way there and say, man, this is really hard for me. I'm not trying to be a jerk, but this is shit work. I'm sorry. And I'm sorry because I should have done a better job of telling you what success looked like.
Yeah. And I always take that on myself. It's like realizing, I could have done this. I should have set this up better, and not realizing, hey, this isn't working. It's not affordable anymore. You're suffering and I'm suffering too. Lying to myself about the potential for fixing this and all the things that go with it.
Love it. All right. Couple more questions and we'll wrap this thing. But, let's see. I always like to do this because it's impactful. We talk about living our best life, living our EOS life, I think is a thing. And one part of that comes with sharing what you do outside of the session room and some of your hobbies. And if you can pull them together, how you and your hobbies or your time outside of work help you be your best self at work. Any examples of that or thoughts around that?
Well, I mean, it's going to be somewhat mundane, I think, but I think I'm the same person, same leader in my family, outside of my family. I try to live in integrity. That's certainly something that I've always, and late in life, realized is something that really drives my behavior, and guilt whenever I feel out of integrity, which is a lot because it's very, very difficult to be 100% in integrity with everything at all times, especially as a high discernment, type of individual who sees a lot of nuance. But, I'm trying to be alive, trying to stay alive. My father died when I was relatively young. I was in college, and I wanted to continue to do deep work. I spent a lot of time in yoga, meditation, and spiritual growth in that capacity. And I run and I try to be as sharp as I can, mentally, physically, to be alive for my kids and to set the right example and be present with my kids. Sleep is one of my number one activity foci. Really drive.
How do you measure? Do you use a Whoop? Do you use a heart rate monitor, or you're just intentional about going to
all
bed?
That. So I don't have a Whoop. I've got the Apple Watch, and I've lived and died by that for a long, long time. And certainly some things that go into that. I've been doing HRV through a heart, heart monitor.
Sure.
And I'm considering the Oura Ring, but all those things. Yeah,
They're all very similar. It's the same technology. They're all operating off of the same light frequency green sensor that comes from all these things. I have found those things make me a little crazy. Surprise, go to bed earlier, don't drink, eat better, be nice to people. All of a sudden your results improve, right? So, But it is the accountability piece. We all need it. So a lot of folks having those help. I did the Whoop band for a while. It was great. And when I have a glass of wine or two before bed, I sleep like shit. So it's nice to know that that's an impactful, and it has. I will not joke that awareness or that visual accountability has helped me make better decisions. We like to go to bed early. I like to get up. I don't like to get up early. I get up and go to I'm accountable by a group fitness class. I go Monday through Thursday at 5:30 a.m. So I'm up and at 'em, and I know that when I get there, I'm going to enjoy myself after the class. But I also know that if I don't show up 2 days in a row, I'm going to get shit from the people in that class for not. So that accountability helps.
Yeah, the accountability and the feedback. I wear a continuous glucose monitor. That helps me. Yeah, that makes a big difference. That really changed my eating.
Really? I love it. Yeah, I saw someone the other day actually who had one that was not diabetic. They had one for the reasons that you're doing, which is to monitor glucose, and the immediate response to how what you eat and your body processes it is pretty badass. Like to know that there's that technology there. That's awesome. Well, any final words of wisdom, any thoughts, any questions? I'm all ears.
Well, I could obviously take a few more hours if I'm not careful, but I will sort of work back to how I start my talks with one question. And it ties back to this greater good thing. I say, all right, guys, what do you want? And it's like, what in the world?
Yeah.
What do you want? What do I want? Like, what does he mean? And I say, you're overwhelmed by that question, aren't you? It's a very simple question. What do you want? And you don't know what I mean. And then I actually can take him into some tools, and I talk about what do you want from your life? What purpose? What drives you? And when we talk about purpose, we talk about what are you going to get when you're dead? Like, that's a really big question. But you can use this tool I call the Purpose Horizon, and it is basically sort of imagining that you are here today, and the end of your life is many decades from now, hopefully. Let's just move the horizon of purpose closer to what do I want out of the next 50 years? Still don't know. What about the next 10 years? What about the next year? What about the next week? What about the next hour? What do I want for lunch? What do I want from this next breath? And the tool is designed to get you to, if you're trying to figure out a sense of purpose or something with significance, just move the time frame until something comes in focus for you, and don't worry about the stuff beyond that.
Yeah.
And so the whole thing is, when I ask somebody what they want, and what I do for a living is I help people get what they want from their business.
Right.
But here's the deal: you don't know. You don't know what you want, and get comfortable with that. So we're going to do some exercises. We're going to fill out a VTO. We're going to ask you what you want in 8 different ways over 3 different days. And some of that's just going to be right, and some of it's not. That 3-year picture is going to make perfect sense that first year, and then the next year it's not going to make sense. So getting comfortable with this idea that you're just trying to get what you want from your life, and just be super humble that you don't know, and you're going to experiment along the way. But it's going to be vitally critical, you as a visionary in this organization, that those few things that matter, and whether it's in the 3-year picture, or if it's in your purpose, or your core values, and thinking about that 10-year target, that's the one that people hard time to answer. 3-year picture, people can do okay.
Yeah.
That's core values.
Quantifiable.
That's a very near-term thing.
Yep.
That's something like, who do you want to work with today?
Yep.
You
And
should
am
be
I
able
willing
to
to put it
answer
in
that.
writing and live by it?
Yeah. So
awesome.
Get clear on what you want. Give some compassion to yourself for not knowing it, and then start demanding it.
Well said. Mark Henderson Leary, it's been a pleasure having you on the Scalability Code today, and I loved our time together and look forward to getting to know you more as we're fellow Texans. I'm 2 hours west of you, and maybe we can find a time to catch up. I won't go on a run with you because I'm not a cardio guy, but I will join you for a home brew or maybe some yoga. So thanks again, Mark, for joining us on Scalability Code. I look forward to speaking to you soon.
Thanks, Matt.
Thank you for listening to the Scalability Code. If you made it this far, please follow the show on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, or wherever you get your podcasts. Let's get out of this show together. We'll see you next time on the Scalability Code.